Good afternoon. This video might take longer than some that I do because it is going to be very interesting for you who do not know about Padre Pio. He is also known as Pius of Pietrelciina, a saint. And this is all about his bilocations, and it will take longer because there's testimonies that I'm going to read. I originally recorded it for Heaven's Road FM on the 14th of October 2015, so we're now on the 9th of December 2020 and it's going on YouTube. So we're going to start. Bilocation, for those that don't understand it, you're in two places at once. You're there and you're there. You'll be fascinated, because I was when I typed this all up, by the way, as well as recorded it, because then I know what I'm going to be reading. Mind you, I haven't read it since the last date on here, 14th of October, so I won't remember everything. But do be patient, and I hope you enjoy what you're going to hear. The bilocation of Padre Pio, now called SAINT PIUS of PIETRELCINA, I still call him Padre Pio. Bilocation can be defined as the simultaneous presence of a person in two different places. Numerous witnesses connected to the Christian religious tradition have reported events of bilocation, which have been attributed to many saints. Padre Pio had this charisma and was seen by witnesses in different places at the same time. And here are, there are only a selection of testimonies. They are not listed in any particular order, but given a number from 1 to 15 for identification from the few people that I'm sharing with you now. 1. Listed testimony. Mrs. Maria, one of Padre Pio's spiritual daughters, said that one evening her brother was praying when suddenly he fell asleep. He was immediately woken by a slap on his right cheek. He realized that the hand which hit him was covered with a half glove. He suddenly thought of Padre Pio. The next day he asked Padre Pio if he had slapped him. Padre Pio answered, "This is the way to cast away sleeping while praying." With a slap, Padre Pio had awakened the attention of the praying man. The second listed testimony. One day, a former Italian army officer entered the sacristy and, watching Padre Pio, said, "Yes, here he is. I'm not wrong." He approached Padre Pio and, kneeling in front of him, crying, he said, "Padre, thank you for saving me from death." Afterwards, the man told the people present there, "I was a captain of the infantry, and one day on the battlefield, in a terrible hour of battle, not far from me, I saw a friar who said, 'Sir, go away from that place.' I went towards him, and as soon as I moved, a grenade burst in the place where I was before and opened a chasm. I turned around in order to find the friar, but he was not there anymore." Padre Pio, who was bilocating, had saved his life. The third testimony. Father Alberto, who met Padre Pio in 1917, stated, "I saw Padre Pio standing in front of the window looking at the mountain. He was speaking to himself. I approached him in order to kiss his hand, but he did not notice my presence, and I noticed that his hand was rigid. At that time, I heard that he was clearly giving absolution and pardon to someone. After a while, Padre Pio shook like awakening from a nap. He looked at me and said, "You're here? I did not realize it." After some days, a telegram from Turin was delivered. Someone was thanking the superior of the convent for having sent Padre Pio to Turin to assist a dying person. I realized that the man was dying. In the same moment, Padre Pio was blessing him in San Giovanni Rotondo. Obviously, the superior of the convent had not sent Padre Pio to Turin, but he had bilocated there. The fourth testimony listed in 1946, that's the year I was born, the 1st of December, an American family went from Philadelphia to St. Giovanni Rotondo in order to thank Padre Pio. In fact, their son, a Bombardier plane pilot during World War II, had been saved by Padre Pio in the sky over the Pacific Ocean. Son explained, the airplane was flying near the airport on the island where it was going to land after it had loaded its bombs. However, the airplane was struck by a Japanese attack plane. The aircraft exploded before the rest of the crew had the chance to parachute. Only I succeeded in going out of the airplane. I don't know how I did it. I tried to open the parachute, but I didn't succeed. I would have smashed to the ground if I had not received a friar's help who had appeared in mid-air. He had a white beard. He took me in his arms and put me sweetly at the entrance of the base. You can imagine the astonishment inspired by my story. Nobody could believe it, but given my presence there, they had no choice. I recognized the friar who saved my life. Some days later, while on home leave, I saw the monk in one of my mother's pictures. She told me she had asked Padre Pio to look after me. Oh, I love that story. I just love that. That's why he's on my computer. He's on my screen, Father Padre Pio. I see him every morning and I call him Beautiful Eyes. And I say good night to him as well. The fifth testimony. A woman was at her daughter's home in Bologna. She had a tumour in her arm, so she agreed with her daughter to go for surgery. The surgeon told her to be patient and to wait some days before establishing a date for the surgery. In the meanwhile, her son-in-law sent a telegram to Padre Pio asking him to pray for his mother-in-law. At the moment when the telegram reached Padre Pio, the woman who was in the dining room alone saw a Capuchin friar enter through the door. "I am Padre Pio of Pietrelcina," he said. Then, after asking her what the doctor had said, and encouraging her to trust in our Blessed Mother, he made the sign of the cross on her arm and went out of the room. At that point, the woman called for the maid, her daughter and son-in-law. She asked them why they allowed Padre Pio to enter without announcing him. They responded that they had not seen Padre Pio, and furthermore they had not opened the door to anyone. The next day, the surgeon did a medical checkup on the woman in preparation for surgery. However, he could not find any tumour. What a lovely story. The sixth testimony. Padre Pio visited the bishop who had ordained him on the 10th of August 1910 in the Cathedral of Benevento. It happened before the bishop's death. Padre Pio bilocated there in order to give the bishop his spiritual support. The seventh listed testimony. Even Blessed Don Orione spoke about Padre Pio's bilocation. He said, "I was in St. Peter's Church in Rome in order to attend the celebration of St. Teresa's beatification. There also was Father Pio, despite the fact that he was in his convent at the same time. I saw him. He was smiling and coming towards me through the crowd, but when I was not far from him, he disappeared." The eighth testimony. In 1951, Father Pio celebrated Holy Mass for a convent of nuns in Czechoslovakia. After Mass, the nuns went to the sacristy to offer Father Pio coffee in order to thank him for his unexpected visit. But they did not find the holy man in the sacristy. Thus the nuns realized that Father Pio had bilocated there. The ninth testimony. In 1956, I was 10 then, Padre Pio served Holy Mass for Joseph Cardinal Mindszenty of Hungary in his Budapest prison. Someone who had news of the imprisonment had asked Father Pio directly, "Father Pio, you have served the Mass to the Cardinal of Hungary, so you have spoken to him, so you have been in jail with him, and you have seen him?" Father Pio answered, "Of course, if I have spoken to him, I have also seen him." He was bilocating. The 10th listed testimony. Mother Speranza, who founded the Order of the Handmaids of the Merciful Love, said she had seen Padre Pio every day for 1 year in Rome. He had bilocated there. We know that Padre Pio had never been to Rome, except once in 1917, in order to take his sister to a convent that she had decided to enter. The 11th listed testimony. I like this one, this is fascinating, I remember this. An Italian general of the army called Cadorna felt in such condition of depression after the defeat of Caporetto that he was contemplating suicide. One evening he went to his room and he commanded his orderly not to allow anybody to come in. He took his gun from a drawer and pointed the gun at his head. But suddenly he heard a voice. "Oh, General, why do you want to do such a stupid thing?" The voice and the presence of the friar helped the general to change his mind. He wondered how it was possible that a friar had entered his room. He asked for explanations from his orderly, but he answered he'd seen nobody going into his room. Some years later, the general read in a newspaper of a friar that worked miracles in the Gargano area. He secretly went there, but he was astonished when Father Pio said to him, "Hello, General, you ran a great risk that evening, didn't you?" I love that story. The 12th listed testimony. Father Agostino wrote, "A nun in France told me after the communion Padre Pio had appeared to her to comfort her and to bless her. So I wanted to ask it of Padre Pio. I told him, 'Do you do some trips to Florence from time to time?' A nun has told this to me." "Yes, I do, Father," he humbly said to me. It was clear Padre Pio had gone to Florence in Bilocation. The 13th listed testimony. The last bilocation of Padre Pio occurred the afternoon before the day of his death. Padre Pio had gone to greet in Genova, Italy, the brother Umile, who was wounded. Around 16:30 p.m. on 22nd of September in 1968, Sister Ludovica goes to Father Umile to bring him a cup of tea. The religious smells of a strong perfume of flowers that floods the whole environment. Since she doesn't know the origin of the perfume, she looks at the monk for an explanation. Father Umile, with naturalness and spontaneity, says, "Padre Pio has come to greet me, and he has given me his last goodbye." The following day, the news of the death of Padre Pio spreads around the world. The 15th listed testimony. Padre Placido Bux of St. Marco in Lamis said, "In 1957, I was 11 then, I was brought to the hospital of San Severo for a serious hepatic problem. During the night, I could see Padre Pio near my bed. He spoke to me and he reassured me about my healing. And Padre Pio disappeared through the window by putting his hand on the glass of the window. The morning after, Padre Placido felt better and he woke up and he went to the window. He recognized the print of Padre Pio's hand on the glass, so he realized it was not a dream. This news was spread within the hospital in a short time and also in the town. A lot of people went into the room in order to check the window for themselves, and despite the glass having been cleaned with water many times, the print was still there. The priest of the church of San Severo, Padre Alberto, in order to pay a visit to Padre Placido and then to St. Giovanni Rotondo to meet with Padre Pio. As soon as Padre Alberto was in the corridor of the convent, he saw Padre Pio in front of him and before he could say anything, Padre Pio asked for news about Padre Placido's health condition. Then Padre Alberto said, "Father, everyone believes you've been in the hospital last night to pay a visit to Padre Placido, and you have left the print of your hand on the glass of the window." Padre Pio said, "Do you have any doubt?" Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, one world without end. Amen. And I made these notes which I'll read to you. I typed this on Tuesday, 6th of October 2015, and this particular one on Bilocation has left my head buzzing, and it's made me cry twice at the consecration in the Mass, at two separate Masses, one earlier at Westerham and the second at 12:15 p.m. at Shrewsbury Cathedral, so much so I had to stop typing and open up the screen and watch the priest complete the Mass. I could not stop crying. It took me ages to recover, and I felt totally disorientated, as if I was not alone. And after typing up this information, I'm convinced I'm not alone. Note, I have listened to every Mass from 7 a.m. today, and yet only these two Masses had this effect on me. Thank goodness all my work effort would have been greatly reduced, and I have a lot more to do before I can begin recording this extraordinary saint's life. I feel he's still working today. And those words still ring true now, because I always feel that when I do anything to do with Padre Pio, and that's why he's my screensaver, because I just like looking at his face and praying and asking him to pray for me. I suggest whenever you've got any health issues or anything at all troubling you, ask him to intercede for you. You'll feel a great peace and joy. And I'm sure he was very humorous as well. God bless you all. That took 22 minutes. I thought it might. God bless you.